Working in social, working in sports and entertainment, a lot of you have millions and millions of followers on TikTok. Oracle, Amazon, and Microsoft have all been named as potential partners. My personal opinion on that, there's so many issues with a government owning a social platform. When you have a $40 to $70 billion asset, of course, you're not going to say, we're not going to sell this. So who is going to end up buying TikTok after all? My name is David Brickley. This is yet another edition of the Business of Social podcast powered by STN Digital. And as we record this on Monday, February 10th, I say the date specifically because the TikTok story that we've been following since 2020, 5 years now, seems to change by the day, sometimes by the hour. But now that we're past the Supreme Court and Trump has put the 75-day extension on it, we at least are not having to follow this ban each and every hour, each and every day. There has been a stay, as a lot of you know, and working in social, working in sports and entertainment, a lot of you have millions and millions of followers on TikTok. You've invested a lot of money, time, resources. A lot of you, and we've seen this with our clients, this is your most profitable platform in terms of engagement, potentially even in terms of revenue and how you guys set up your different social departments. So again, as we record this on Monday the 10th, this is the latest on TikTok. And I had to really even educate myself because I feel like once Trump put that 75-day stay on, it got real quiet and people stopped talking about TikTok. People kind of cared less about the updates, but I wanted to make sure I updated you all so we don't get to that day 75 and then people start freaking out again. So here is the latest. So several companies are interested in participating. Some people, I've been on phone calls, you've been maybe concerned that Elon Musk not only will own Twitter, or X, excuse me, but will also take over TikTok. He said recently he has no plans of buying TikTok, so he's out of the running as it stands right now. He also mentioned at a conference back in late January that he likes to typically start companies from scratch like the Teslas and the SpaceXs and not so much the X's of the world, because I think he bought that for freedom of speech more so than maybe the profit, as X has lost a lot of value, honestly, since he purchased it really at the peak of its valuation. So the latest is this: Oracle, Amazon, and Microsoft have all been named as potential partners for the American operations. I've been saying this for so many weeks, so many months, that obviously I believe from the get-go TikTok would never fully go away because the US portion of the app is valued anywhere between 40 and $70 billion. And nobody in the history of business has ever took their ball and went home with a $70 billion asset. So the latest is the solution is really to be a joint venture between a U.S. company and Beijing, which is ByteDance, the owner of TikTok. There is a very interesting thing that's been going around, and I mean, not going around, Trump even mentioned this, that he wanted to create a sovereign wealth fund where the U.S. government is actually a partner with ByteDance as a owner of the app. Now, my personal opinion on that, there's so many issues with a government owning a social platform. And obviously there's a lot of issues there in terms of, you want to talk about freedom of speech. If a government of a country is a part owner in a social app, you would assume there would be some things going on behind the scenes and censoring certain things. So don't love that idea. And I think a lot of people have said that will obviously not go through, even though Trump has suggested it. But he has tasked Vice President J.D. Vance to oversee the negotiations. Trump has said there is a new process to be followed during this 75 days in order for it to be sold by that April 5th deadline. Now, it's really important for everybody to know, as marketers out there, if for whatever reason it doesn't get sold by April 5th, as long as they are headed towards a potential sale, Trump can continue to extend this ban that the Supreme Court levied just a few short weeks ago. So there is process, there is talks going on. So as long as there's momentum and TikTok is definitely open to sell to a U.S. partner and to kind of be in a joint venture, if you will, then even if that April 5th deadline comes and goes, Trump can continue to extend it on that front. It is interesting to say, to kind of hop over here for a second, that Android and Apple still will not allow you to download it in their app stores as of, again, February 10th, as we talk about this. So TikTok developed an Android download kit on tiktok.com/download, where you can download a light version of the app on Android devices. Now, there isn't an iPhone solution now, but that's been an issue where people, if you lose your phone or you want to upgrade your iPhone, you cannot download in the App Store. Now, a little bit more background of why the app stores have chosen not to quote unquote believe Trump when he says he's not going to currently institute this ban or have any financial levies against the app stores for having it in their app store. It's because, as the law currently stands, I believe it's something along the lines of $5,000 per user that is able to access the app, which could be billions and billions and billions of dollars of fines on a daily basis. So Apple, Google, they're saying, we're not going to take that risk. We're not going to take the risk that Trump changes his mind overnight. So we are not going to have it in our store until the law officially changes. Again, the law does say that it's banned, but if it gets sold to a US owner, that the ban would be lifted and then everything would go away in terms of those potential fines. So TikTok is offering that workaround, but the Apple and Android stores are saying we don't feel comfortable to do anything with that fine currently in the U.S. law. So we will wait and see after this extension and after it officially gets sold. A few more things on this topic is Beijing Chinese officials. They are open. They are interested in reaching a deal. Again, I've said this before. When you have a $40 to $70 billion asset, of course, you're not going to say we're not going to sell this. I think the main reason why ByteDance has not wanted to sell this for quite some time, they don't want to give up the algorithm. Now, that's what we still have to figure out, if the US version is going to have the same algorithm. I've seen it too. I know you've seen it. A lot of people are saying that it's Meta's algorithm, and ever since it came back from that 24-hour shutdown, that it's different and the algorithm is just a little bit off. Whether that's a conspiracy theory, whether there's some truth to that, we don't know. But I think that's the main thing. When TikTok officially becomes a partner with the US company, is it going to be that algorithm? Because that's one thing they're trying to protect globally. So let's say, let's say Meta got involved or Elon got involved. They don't want them to then have access to that algorithm because that's what they think is the value of. Not think, it is. One thing ByteDance has said, just to throw this out there as well, is they're still trying to convince Trump, hey, we don't have to sell necessarily. Remember Project Texas, and remember we can put our data and we can have people on our board and we can have US employees look over all this and make sure we're doing our job. I don't think that's going to be something that actually goes through, but TikTok's still holding out hope that they don't have to sell, even though they're still having conversations. They know that's probably the inevitable thing that's going to happen, 90% likely. But they're also holding out for the 10% chance that, again, the U.S. user data on an Oracle cloud server with U.S. employees, with U.S. people on the board that's looking over the data. The problem is they've already done that. And there's been no reports, no evidence. There has been U.S. employees and U.S. data experts that has been monitoring this in the quote-unquote Project Texas. There hasn't been any data leaks. There hasn't been any evidence that was reported in that Supreme Court hearing. So as far as the law goes, as far as the Supreme Court goes, they were not okay with that remedy. So this has to be sold. It's just a matter right now of who. Again, Oracle, Amazon, Microsoft, all there. I know Mr. Wonderful, Mr. Beast, they were all involved. But it seems like, as it stands as a recording of this podcast, that, again, we're heading towards the April 5th deadline. Remember, as you plan out your different scenarios for TikTok, that they can continue to extend this deadline as long as the Beijing-owned ByteDance is headed towards selling to a company like Oracle, Amazon, and Microsoft. And I'll end with this. As I've done this my entire career, really helping large brands, helping all brands really with their social media success and their strategy. If this isn't a wake-up call that you need to be multi-platform, they've always said this in finances, you need to diversify your assets. Well, when it comes to social, and we saw this with a lot of creators on TikTok, they need to have a YouTube short strategy. They need to have an Instagram reel strategy. They need to be across different platforms. So it's just like another reminder, never put all your eggs in one basket. Ensure that you're not beholden to any one platform. We've seen this, right? We've seen creators on Vine that never came back, that were like top 10 creators in Vine, but they never were able to really diversify their platforms and have followers from their main platform follow them on the other platform. So as you begin to build following on any platform, as you look at across your social platforms as brands and you say, wow, Instagram is by far and away like 5x our most important platform compared to a TikTok, a YouTube, a X, what have you. Just make sure you're constantly looking at that. So worst case scenario, if as we've seen before, the social platforms have gone down for multiple days. We've seen social platforms like X be bought and kind of completely changed how that platform works. and how that platforming gets engagement. And of course, with TikTok, with these bans and things like that, um, never, ne- just always be safe with your strategy and always try to diversify and not go too much width and not enough depth. But it's always important to do that across your platform. So that's the latest. That's what we know. We'll continue to follow this. If you guys, I may not do podcasts on this all the time, but if you follow me on David Brickley on LinkedIn, on David J. Brickley on Instagram and TikTok, I've done a lot of 60-second to 90-second recaps and really was updating our clients as well as all my followers on the latest on TikTok. So that's the best place to follow me if you want to make sure anything large at TikTok, I'm going to talk about it. Again, it may not be a podcast if you only listen on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. So follow me on social for all the updates as we head towards that April 5th deadline. But I thought you guys would enjoy the latest on TikTok and who ends up buying this sucker once and for all. So there you have it. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Once again, my name is David Brickley. This has all been powered by STN Digital, and we appreciate you guys listening, downloading, watching on YouTube, the Business of Social podcast.